Did you know that your consciousness might be an illusion, a clever trick played by your own brain? Think about it for a moment. Everything you perceive, all your thoughts, your deepest feelings. What if they're just the brain's way of making sense of countless chemical reactions, without any real you behind them? It's a challenging idea, but let's dive deeper. Consciousness feels real. It's the very essence of our identity. But is it more than just an elaborate construction of neural activity? According to some scientists and philosophers, what we call consciousness could be nothing more than a side effect, an illusion created by complex neural processes. Imagine your brain as a supercomputer, tirelessly processing data, generating experiences, emotions, and decisions. But could all of this happen without there being an actual self behind it? Is our sense of being an aware individual a mirage? Pause and consider this. What if the self you think you know doesn't truly exist? What if all your thoughts and memories are just sophisticated data flowing through a system, no soul, no spirit, no real center? While unsettling, this idea makes us question the very foundations of what it means to be alive. Perhaps the experience of consciousness, as vivid as it feels, is nothing more than a biological illusion, an emergent property of millions of neurons firing together, giving the illusion of you. But what if there's more beneath the surface? What if consciousness is not just an accidental byproduct of evolution, but instead, something far more significant? Maybe it's a fundamental feature of the universe, as important as space, time, and matter. This line of thinking leads us to the next big question: can artificial intelligence ever achieve consciousness? Imagine this scenario: a machine that understands, feels, and even perceives itself. Science fiction, right? But with the rapid advancements in AI, many believe that this might soon be our reality. Artificial intelligence has already made impressive strides, imitating human-like conversation, making decisions, and even creating art. But does this mean that machines can become conscious in the way that we are? Let's break it down. Intelligence and consciousness are not the same. Intelligence can be programmed, AI can analyze data, solve problems, and learn patterns. But consciousness is something different. It's the subjective experience of being. It's that inner voice, that awareness of your thoughts and emotions. Many scientists argue that machines, no matter how advanced, cannot truly experience anything. They might simulate understanding, but they lack that inner subjective awareness, that feeling aspect that defines consciousness. However, imagine a world where machines do achieve consciousness. Where an AI can feel pain, joy, or fear. What would that mean for our society? Could machines then have rights? Should they be treated as entities deserving of ethical consideration? These questions aren't as far-fetched as they sound. Some futurists believe that we are moving toward a world where machines could become our equals, not just in intelligence but also in their subjective experiences. If that were the case, what would be our responsibility? And most importantly, what would it say about consciousness itself? Is it just a complex computation, or is there something more mysterious, something beyond algorithms and neural networks? As we ponder the potential for machine consciousness, let's turn our attention to another deeply mysterious question: does our consciousness survive after death? What happens to consciousness when the body ceases to function? This question has intrigued humanity for millennia. While science tends to lean toward the view that consciousness is tied to our physical brains, there are countless accounts that suggest otherwise. Near-death experiences, for instance, are filled with vivid descriptions of tunnels of light, encounters with loved ones, and an overwhelming sense of peace. These stories are common across cultures and have persisted throughout history. Could these experiences be proof of consciousness continuing beyond physical death? Or are they just the final fireworks of a dying brain, deprived of oxygen and desperately trying to make sense of its fading signals? Some scientists argue that these experiences are no different from hallucinations, the result of the brain's chemistry as it shuts down. Others, however, believe that these accounts are glimpses of a reality beyond our physical existence, a transition from one state of consciousness to another. Consider this for a moment: if consciousness is not merely a product of our brain, then what could it be? Could it be something more fundamental, a non-material essence that persists beyond our physical forms? There are even theories that consciousness is independent of the brain and merely uses the brain as a vehicle to interact with the physical world. This view aligns with what many spiritual traditions have said for centuries, that death is not the end but rather a transformation, a passage to a different plane of existence. Now, let's imagine how this connects to altered states of consciousness experienced during life. Psychedelics, meditation, and near-death experiences all point to the idea that our ordinary waking consciousness might be just one of many possible states. Could these altered states provide a glimpse into what happens after death, or perhaps even allow us to touch the edges of a greater, more expansive reality? Imagine taking a substance that dissolves your sense of self and opens up a world that feels more real than everyday life. Psychedelics such as LSD, psilocybin, and ayahuasca have been used for centuries in various cultures for their ability to profoundly alter consciousness. These substances can break down the boundaries between the self and the external world, revealing interconnectedness and sometimes, a profound sense of unity with everything. But what do these experiences reveal about the nature of consciousness? Are psychedelics simply altering brain chemistry, creating illusions and distortions of reality? Or do they peel back the layers of perception, allowing us to see a deeper, underlying truth about the universe and our place within it? Could these experiences be the key to understanding what consciousness really is? Many users of psychedelics report a sense of oneness, of being part of something far greater than themselves. This feeling of unity aligns with what many mystics and spiritual seekers have described, that at a fundamental level, there is no separation between individuals, that all consciousness is interconnected. But is this truly an insight into the nature of reality, or just a chemical trick of the brain? Science still doesn't have a definitive answer, but what we do know is that these altered states can provide profound insights, sometimes changing the way people view themselves and the world around them for the rest of their lives. These experiences bring us to the question of collective consciousness. If individuals can experience a sense of unity during altered states, could it mean that there is a deeper level of consciousness that connects us all, a collective mind, so to speak? Let's explore this intriguing idea further in the next segment. Could it be that our consciousness is not just an individual phenomenon, but part of a greater collective consciousness that connects all of us? This idea is not new. The notion of a collective mind has been explored in different philosophical and spiritual traditions for centuries. The concept of the noosphere, for example, suggests that there is a shared space of consciousness that envelops the planet, influenced by the thoughts, emotions, and intentions of all living beings. If this is true, it would mean that our individual thoughts are not isolated but instead resonate through a larger field of consciousness. Imagine, for a moment, that every thought you have is like a ripple in a vast ocean of consciousness. Your intentions, your fears, your hopes, they don't just end with you. They spread out, influencing others in subtle but meaningful ways. This could explain why we often feel a sense of connection with those around us, even without speaking. Why we sometimes just know how someone else is feeling, or why emotions can spread like wildfire through a group of people. But is there any scientific basis for this idea of collective consciousness? While the concept remains largely in the realm of speculation, there have been some intriguing studies. Researchers have observed how large groups of people can have synchronized emotional reactions, sometimes even before a major event occurs. Think of the collective anxiety before a natural disaster, or the collective elation during a moment of triumph. Could these phenomena be evidence of a collective consciousness at work? If we are all connected, then our actions and thoughts have more power than we realize. This means that cultivating positive intentions and a sense of compassion could not only improve our own lives but also the world around us. It's a powerful thought. By raising our own consciousness, we might help elevate the consciousness of humanity as a whole. This brings us to the intersection of consciousness and physics, particularly the controversial link between consciousness and quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics and consciousness, a strange connection. What if your thoughts could influence reality at the most fundamental level? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness plays a role in the behavior of subatomic particles. The famous double-slit experiment is often cited as an example. In this experiment, particles behave differently depending on whether or not they are being observed, leading some to speculate that consciousness itself might affect the outcome. While mainstream science is cautious about drawing direct conclusions between quantum mechanics and consciousness, the very possibility raises profound questions. Could our thoughts, in some way, shape the physical world around us? If consciousness can influence particles at a quantum level, then perhaps the boundaries between mind and matter are not as rigid as we once believed. Imagine if our collective thoughts, beliefs, and expectations could influence not just our experiences, but also the fabric of reality itself. This is where science meets mysticism, and where consciousness challenges our understanding of the universe. It makes us reconsider whether consciousness is a passive observer or an active participant in creating the reality we experience. From here, we naturally arrive at a critical question. Is human consciousness the pinnacle of evolution, or are there forms of consciousness beyond our understanding? The evolution of consciousness. Are humans the final stage? We often like to think of ourselves as the most evolved beings on the planet. Our capacity for self-reflection, creativity, and complex thought seems unmatched. But what if there are forms of consciousness that surpass ours? Could there be other beings, perhaps somewhere else in the universe, or even on Earth, that possess a deeper, more profound awareness? Consider animals. we know that many animals exhibit signs of consciousness. Dolphins, elephants, and even birds have shown behaviors that indicate complex problem solving, empathy, and even a sense of self. What if their consciousness is different, not lesser? Perhaps it is we who lack the ability to fully understand or perceive their experience. Moreover, if consciousness is indeed an evolving phenomenon, then what could come after us? Could artificial intelligence, or some yet unknown entity, develop a consciousness that surpasses human capabilities? What if consciousness is like an unfolding story, with each chapter bringing about more complexity and depth? It's a humbling thought, one that reminds us that we may not be the end point but rather a stepping stone in a far greater evolutionary journey. The manipulation of consciousness, media, technology, and control. In the digital age, our consciousness is under constant influence. Social media, advertising, and news outlets are designed to capture our attention, and in doing so, they shape our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. But are we aware of how deeply these forces manipulate us? Algorithms on social media platforms are engineered to keep us engaged, feeding us content that reinforces our existing beliefs, making it harder to see the world from different perspectives. Think about how often you've scrolled through your phone without thinking. That's not an accident, it's by design. The aim is to occupy your consciousness, to direct your thoughts, and ultimately, to influence your actions. This raises significant ethical concerns. Are we truly free, or are we being conditioned, guided subtly by those who control the flow of information? The impact of this manipulation on our individual consciousness is profound, but it also affects the collective consciousness. When millions of people are exposed to the same narratives, the same images, and the same fears, it shapes the collective perception of reality. It's essential, then, to be mindful of what we allow into our minds and to question the motivations behind the content we consume. The consciousness of animals, rights and ethics. If animals are conscious, then what does that mean for the way we treat them? Many animals display behaviors that suggest they are aware of their surroundings, capable of experiencing pain and pleasure, and even forming emotional bonds. If animals have consciousness, then our ethical responsibilities toward them are far greater than we might currently acknowledge. Consider how we interact with animals, whether through farming, experimentation, or as pets. If these beings are capable of suffering and joy, then the moral implications of our actions become profound. Should we continue to view animals as resources for human use, or should we start recognizing their intrinsic value as conscious beings? This is a debate that challenges the very foundations of our ethical systems and forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our relationship with other forms of life on this planet. Consciousness as the foundation of reality, idealism versus materialism. What if consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, but rather the very foundation of the universe? This idea, known as idealism, posits that consciousness is fundamental and that the physical world arises from it, not the other way around. It's a perspective that turns conventional science on its head, suggesting that rather than consciousness being an emergent property of the brain, it is, in fact, the primary substance of reality. Think of the universe as a vast dream, with consciousness as the dreamer. In this view, all matter, all energy, and even the very laws of physics are expressions of this underlying consciousness. This challenges the materialist view that dominates modern science, the idea that only physical matter is real and that consciousness is just an accidental byproduct. If idealism is correct, then every aspect of reality is imbued with consciousness, and our individual awareness is just one fragment of a much greater whole. This aligns with many spiritual traditions, which have long held that the material world is an illusion, and that true reality lies beyond what we can perceive with our senses. Could it be that consciousness is not something that arises within us, but rather something we are all a part of, a vast ocean in which we are individual waves? As we continue to explore the mysteries of consciousness, it becomes clear that there is much we do not yet understand. But one thing is certain, consciousness is not just a scientific puzzle, it's a deeply personal journey. It defines who we are, how we experience the world, and how we connect with each other. Stay tuned as we dive into even deeper waters in our exploration of consciousness. If these ideas have sparked your curiosity, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content. What are your thoughts on consciousness? Do you believe it's fundamental to the universe, or just a byproduct of the brain? Leave a comment below and share your perspective, we'd love to hear from you.